This looked like a small-town cop's pipe dream until Monica Jackson, the retired SEAL queen, dropped her 20-year service bombshell and left the jury and prosecutor speechless. Simmons thought he could strangle justice with slippery testimony, never guessing he was up against someone who's parachuted into combat and trudged through mud too many times to be fooled. The room erupted when she asked, "Do you have any proof?" And the screen flickered to life with bystander video that tore his lies to shreds. Craving a front-row seat to justice schooling power? Hit the bell, subscribe, and let's feast on these jaw-dropping showdowns. The story opens on a stifling September morning, just as the first shafts of sunlight slice through the heavy velvet drapes, painting long streaks across the polished wooden floor. The trial convenes at 9 o'clock, while the scent of fresh coffee still lingers from the corner cafe. Beneath the grand vaulted ceiling, the echo of Chief Judge Gregory Hawthorne's gavel rings out a signal that this courtroom drama is about to begin. Officer Lucas Mitchell rises deliberately, uniform, crisp, and demeanor unshakably confident. A murmur ripples through the audience, from gray-haired locals clutching their newspapers to young reporters feverishly scribbling notasas. He levels his charge. Taylor Morgan resisted arrest and assaulted him at the entrance of a closed shop. His voice booms, filling every corner. I had no choice but to subdue her to protect myself. Across the aisle, Taylor Morgan sits statuesque in a simple white blouse and black slacks. Her glossy black hair is neatly braided, and her gaze drifts calmly from one motion to the next. No rush, no tremor. In that moment, she's not a frail defendant, but a woman of profound inner strength, quietly cataloging evidence with every measured blink. Jordan Ellis, her young defense attorney, once spirited as a law student, now betrays a flicker of anxiety. He thumbs through the file with a trembling hand, finding no obvious opening to strike back. Light glints off the thin frame of his glasses, evoking the lonely note of an old piano in an autumn-lit parlor. Still, Taylor merely lowers her head, lips pressed together as if to say, "Let me speak my truth." Judge Hawthorne raps his gavel a second time, his tone deep and weary. "Please call the defendant." The air grows even more charged, breaths held in anticipation of a dramatic turn. Taylor shifts ever so slightly and offers a faint, confident smile, just enough to claim the moment. Every pair of eyes fixes on her, waiting for the first words that will upend the courtroom and ignite a new chapter in the fight for truth and justice. The story picks up right after Taylor Morgan's striking opening. Officer Lucas Mitchell strides to the stand with measured steps, each one oozing the confidence of a man who believes victory is already his. He straightens his uniform and secures his holstered sidearm before intoning, "I swear that the testimony I am about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth." The judge's gavel taps one sides, echo like a drumbeat, marking the start of this courtroom drama. Mitchell inhales deeply, his gaze sweeping over the gallery. His voice rings out crisp and unwavering. "That evening, I was dispatched to a quiet block and found Miss Morgan loitering outside a closed storefront." He paints a cinematic scene, deserted streets under a blanket of darkness, shadows drifting across the pavement, cicadas humming in the humid air. Then, in his version, Taylor snapped, without provocation, refused to show ID, punched him square in the chest, and reached for his service weapon. His narrative crackles with tension, prompting gasps and murmurs among the spectators. "He's stretching the truth. That doesn't add up." Yet Taylor sits perfectly still, her expression unreadable, eyes laser-focused on Mitchell. She mentally logs every micro-detail, the barely perceptible tremor in his fingers when he feigns pain, the subtle shift in his posture as he strains to appear composed. The courtroom's amber light glints off his badge, but can't conceal the worry lines deepening on his forehead each time he forces himself upright. Taylor doesn't speak a word, yet her calm scrutiny speaks volumes. When Mitchell finishes his monologue, Judge Hawthorne tilts his head in acknowledgement. No flicker of doubt crosses his stoic face. "You may step down," he instructs, voice low and deliberate. A ripple of subdued chatter flows through the room as reporters sharpen their pencils. Jordan Ellis, Taylor's defense attorney, swallows his frustration, silently promising himself, "Cross-examination is coming." He releases a slow breath, gathering his resolve like a general before battle. Now, the atmosphere has palpably shifted. What began as Mitchell's confident proclamation now simmers with undercurrents of doubt. Spectators lean forward in their seats, sensing the duel of wits about to unfold. In that pregnant silence, everyone realizes this isn't merely a trial of facts, it's a cerebral contest where truth and falsehood will clash head-on, each vying for supremacy. The stage is set, and all eyes are fixed on the moment Taylor Morgan takes the stand next. The prosecutor gives a slight wave of his hand, straightens his dark tie, and fixes his gaze on Taylor. "Please tell the jury exactly what happened that night," he says, his tone both warm and razor-sharp. The courtroom falls so silent that even the soft rustle of papers from the clerk seems amplified. Taylor inhales slowly, closing her eyes for a moment as if gathering her thoughts, then meets the eyes of each juror in turn. Her voice is steady and measured, yet unyielding. "First, I want to make clear that the officer's testimony is not only inaccurate but deliberately misleading." That statement strikes like an arrow to the heart of the prosecution's case, causing the prosecutor to pause mid-question. Judge Hawthorne's gavel taps sharply, urging the prosecutor to press on, but the atmosphere has already shifted. Every spectator from the silver-haired grandfather in the back row to the veteran reporters leans forward, drawn in by Taylor's quiet authority. She makes no haste. She simply places both hands on the witness stand, her gaze calm and unflinching like a still lake. When the prosecutor attempts to interrupt, Taylor allows a slight, knowing smile. "I trust that the truth will soon emerge." That promise, uttered under the courtroom's lofty arches, tightens the tension another notch. Each person present senses that this is no idle boast but a chilling vow from a woman of steel. Taylor proceeds with her account. She had been on her way home after work, stopped at the corner of Magnolia and 5th to check her map app. Suddenly, Officer Mitchell burst onto the scene with his flashlight beam cutting through the night, cornering her against the patrol car. He demanded her ID, and when she asked why, he gripped her arm and spat. "Women like you need to know your place." Taylor's retelling is precise and vivid, the flashlight bobbing in his grasp, the vice-like squeeze of his hand, every detail unfolding in slow-motion clarity. The jurors exchange glances, their eyes lighting up with empathy and curiosity. The charged tension in the room transforms into a shared resolve, indignation, skepticism, and the eager anticipation of witnessing truth laid bare. In that moment, Taylor Morgan ceases to be merely a defendant. She becomes the very embodiment of a battle for justice, where every word she utters may determine the fate of an entire system. The scene rewinds to that fateful night, when the streetlights scattered through the magnolia branches, casting a soft glow on Taylor Morgan's phone screen. She'd pulled over at the corner of Magnolia and 5th just to check her map, unaware that this brief pause would awaken a flood of memories. Officer Mitchell appeared, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, voice sharp and accusing. "What are you doing here?" Taylor looked up, her answer as gentle as an autumn leaf drifting down. "I'm checking directions." When Mitchell demanded her identification, Taylor calmly asked, "Do you have any wrongdoing to justify asking for my ID?" Murmurs erupted in the courtroom, challenging the police. Dangerous! Yet she remained unshaken, each word precise and unflinching, leaving the panel hanging on her every syllable. In that moment of hushed intensity, Taylor seemed to slip back to her childhood, to the years when discrimination was a constant companion. She remembered the first time she, a little black girl, was refused entry to a high-end boutique because "we don't serve people like you." She recalled summer afternoons spent mocked by classmates for her tattered sandals and being reprimanded by a teacher for speaking with the wrong accent. Each invisible wound had carved into her the credo, "The harder they push you down, the stronger you must rise." She saw again her mother's determined eye-small but fierce whispering after each insult, "You must be strong, darling. This world isn't made for the weak." Her father, a retired serviceman, had drilled into her the first lesson of discipline. Never let anyone steal your composure. Those memories surged like a current of steel and resolve, banishing any flicker of fear as she faced the officer before her. Now, in the courtroom, Taylor was no mere defendant. She stood as the voice of millions who had endured injustice. Placing both hands on the witness stand, she met Mitchell's gaze head-on. "I wasn't obstructing traffic. I simply wanted to know why you demanded my ID. Her tone transcended personal defense. It resonated with an entire generation's cry for dignity and equality. Her clear, unyielding declaration thickened the air. Judge Hawthorne rapped his gavel to restore order amid the rising whispers. Taylor allowed a brief, wry smile, her eyes shining with the quiet strength of a battle-tested warrior. For it was those childhood scars that had forged her into the unbreakable woman she was today, a successful, resolute champion ready to demand justice. As the prosecutor nods for her to continue, the courtroom falls into a hushed anticipation, every breath held for Taylor's next words. She begins, "When I asked why he needed my ID, Officer Mitchell snapped. He barked that I was being uncooperative and then grabbed my wrist with surprising force. Under the muted glow of the overhead lights and the rhythmic click of the court recorder, the image of Mitchell's powerful hand clamped around her arm feels almost tactile. I tried to pull my hand away," Taylor explains evenly, "but he only squeezed harder and then hurled me against the patrol car. At that moment, the imagined thud of flesh against cold metal seems to resound in everyone's ears. There are audible gasps and a few murmurs of shock. That was brutal, not a hint of restraint. Taylor's voice remains calm but resolute as she paints the scene. The harsh scrape of her coat, the sudden jolt rocking her balance, the sting of bruising that was only beginning to bloom under her skin. "I never intended to resist," she insists, "but he forced me to fight back simply to protect myself." The prosecutor shoots her a sidelong glance, searching for any crack in her story. "Yet witnesses say they saw you shove him first," he counters. Taylor offers a small, knowing smile. "I never laid a finger on him. Every move was his aggression." Her eyes lock onto the jury as she delivers each syllable with deliberate precision. "I did not reach for his weapon. I did not attempt to disarm him." A ripple of charged whispers spreads through the gallery, tinged with outrage and disbelief. Spectators, from the elderly patrons in the back row to the seasoned reporters at the front, feel a fresh gust of clarity cutting through the haze of Mitchell's narrative. Taylor's testimony winds itself around the facts like a silver thread, unraveling the lie and laying bare the truth. Judge Hawthorne raps his gavel once more, but the tone has shifted from procedural to electric. "Proceed." Taylor settles back into her seat, eyes alight with unwavering determination. Behind her poised demeanor lies the undeniable truth that a single, clear account can shatter falsehoods and reclaim dignity even when confronted by the weight of authority. In that charged silence, it's clear that the battlefield of justice has been forever altered. The room crackles with renewed tension as Taylor turns her gaze from the jury to Officer Mitchell. "Let's address the claim that I reached for your weapon," she begins, voice cool yet cutting. "There is zero fingerprint evidence. None of my prints were found on your holster, and your body camera conveniently malfunctioned right when you needed it most." Her words hang heavy in the stale air. A ripple of disbelief sweeps through the spectators. Murmurs of, "Camera conveniently broke. No proof, just a cover-up." In that pregnant pause, every eye in the courtroom pivots toward Mitchell, whose confident facade flickers for the first time. He shifts uncomfortably, tugging at his uniform, unable to meet Taylor's unwavering stare. Judge Hawthorne raps his gavel sharply, restoring a fragile calm. "Proceed with your questioning, counselor," he intones, though his tone betrays a flicker of curiosity. Taylor leans forward, hands clasped before her. "Your Honor, I request that this court focus on facts, not fabricated stories." Her calm insistence is magnetic, nothing theatrical, yet undeniably powerful. The prosecutor straightens, cheeks flushing as he fights to regain control, but his eyes dart between Mitchell and the jury, betraying his unease. In this moment, Taylor has seized the psychological high ground. By spotlighting the malfunctioning camera, she has exposed the very mechanism Mitchell relied on to justify his actions. The gallery's undercurrent shifts from skepticism of Taylor to suspicion of the officer. Witnesses scribble frantically. Even the bailiffs exchange knowing glances. Taylor remains compositive. Measured breath amplifies her authority. With one deft move, she has turned a supposed act of aggression into proof of Mitchell's deceit, leaving everyone to ponder. If the camera can lie, what else about his testimony can't be trusted? The battle for credibility now tilts unmistakably in her favor. After the grueling questioning wraps up, Taylor and her defense team quietly step down from the witness stand. Their footsteps echo softly along the marble hallway, while murmurs trail behind them. She laid out her case so clearly. "Do you think she really is a SEAL?" Jordan Ellis falls in step beside Taylor, voice low and measured. "Have you given any thought to our next move?" Taylor offers a calm, knowing smile as her gaze follows the departing spectators, jurors, reporters, and onlookers alike, each lost in whispered conjecture. She answers simply, "The truth will speak for itself." Those words hang in the air like a promise, charged with quiet confidence. Outside the courthouse doors, life carries on in perfect normalcy. Distant car horns, conversations drifting on warm afternoon air. But for Taylor and her legal team, this moment is far from ordinary. They understand that justice isn't secured in a single testimony, but in a sustained effort to unravel every layer of deception and prejudice woven into the system. Taylor takes a steadying breath of the summer breeze, squeezes Jordan's hand, and meets his eyes with firm resolve. We'll see each other back in that courtroom when the truth can no longer be ignored. With that, they stride forward, ready for the next chapter in their fight for justice. When court reconvenes, the air is taut, every eye fixed on the prosecutor as he rises with a heavy stack of files. He lays out Officer Mitchell's incident reports and the official log of the body camera malfunction, tapping each document with a flourish. But these paper shields seem flimsy now that the jury's faith in Mitchell has begun to crack. The murmurs of doubt still linger. If the camera broke, what else did he hide? Taylor steps forward with serene assurance, her navy blazer crisp and her posture unyielding. The judge's gavel falls into that steady rhythm, a heartbeat for the next act. She greets Judge Hawthorne and the jurors with a nod, no fanfare, just quiet command. Then she begins, her voice clear as a bell in the hush. "Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have heard every allegation against me and every attempt to justify it with reports and broken equipment." She pauses, letting the weight of it settle. "I am here to affirm two things, my innocence and my dignity. Neither can be tarnished by a failed camera or misfiled paperwork." Her words hit like a well-aimed baton, punctuating the room's stillness. She walks the jury through her professional conduct, that night no reckless aggression, no attempt to evade scrutiny. Every sentence is precise, every phrase measured, as she dismantles the idea that a single gesture could equate to criminal intent. Taylor's gaze never wavers from the jury. She emphasizes the trustworthiness of her record-a-sterling career built on integrity and service. "I have held myself to the highest standards," she continues, voice unwavering, "and I am prepared to answer any question about my conduct." The subtext is unmistakable. If her track record is spotless, why waver now? Behind her, Mitchell shifts in his seat, shoulders slumping as each of her assertions lands. The prosecution squints at its notes, searching for a counterpunch, but finds only Taylor's eloquence to parry with. The gallery leans forward, as if drawn by an invisible lure, skepticism melting into empathy. With one final look at Judge Hawthorne, and of Taylor adds, "True justice demands we focus on facts, not fancy reports." The gavel falls once more, signaling an uneasy calm. In that charged silence, it's clear that the battle of narratives has tilted definitively in her favor. The courtroom, which opened with Mitchell's confident declarations, now holds its collective breath, awaiting the next move in this riveting clash of truth versus fabrication. The prosecutor delivers his closing acknowledgement, and the gavel slams down one final time as the jury files out to begin its deliberations. A hush falls over the courtroom, an almost palpable tension as spectators shift in their seats, leaning forward in anxious curiosity. The heavy oak doors creak shut behind the jurors, sealing them away to decide Taylor Morgan's fate in private. At the defense table, Jordan Ellis and Taylor sit side by side, their shoulders nearly touching. Jordan rubs his temples, yet his eyes meet Taylor's with unwavering resolve. She offers him a small, encouraging smile, remembering that no battlefield has ever daunted Harrend. This intellectual duel is no different. Taylor thinks back to nights spent under foreign skies in silent watch, to missions where seconds meant the difference between life and death. Today, the stakes may be less immediate, but they weigh just as heavily on the scales of justice. All around them, the courtroom remains unnaturally still, the only sound the soft shuffle of papers as clerks reposition files. Reporters glance up from their notepads, capturing every micro-expression. Even Judge Hawthorne leans forward on the bench, forehead creased in concentration. In this suspended moment, time itself seems to pause. Taylor closes her eyes briefly, breathing in the familiar scent of polished wood and leather-bound law books. Each inhale steadies her nerves. Every exhale releases any residual doubt. She reminds herself she has faced far more daunting challenges than an hour of waiting. She recalls her father's steady mantra, "Composure is everything," and her mother's gentle wisdom, "Courage isn't absence of fear, but action in spite of it." Those lessons echo through her mind, fortifying her spirit. Jordan clears his throat softly, breaking the silence. He slides a glass of water across to Taylor, who accepts it with grace. Their eyes lock in a silent pact. Whatever happens next, they will stand together. Taylor's gaze then drifts upward toward the jury room door, envisioning the faces she saw earlier, some skeptical, some sympathetical, now carrying her words, her dignity, and her struggle within them. Outside, the late afternoon sun slants through the high windows, casting warm beams across the hushed courtroom. It's a reminder that life goes on, even in moments of suspense. For Taylor, each ray of light is a promise. Truth, like the sun, cannot be held back by shadows. As the minutes tick by, she sits perfectly still, an unshakable anchor in the sea of uncertainty, believing wholeheartedly that the clarity of her testimony and the strength of her convictions will ultimately guide the jury back to the only just conclusion. After hours of tense waiting, the jury room doors finally swing open, and the jurors file back into the courtroom. A hush falls before the foreperson steps to the bench to read the verdict. In the case of the state versus Taylor Morgan, we find the defendant not guilty on all counts. Judge Hawthorne's gavel raps once, then lingers in the Aran emphatic punctuation mark on justice served. Every pair of eyes tracks the jurors' subtle smiles, their expressions brightening with quiet affirmation. Moments later, soft but heartfelt applause ripples through the gallery, each clap a salute to truth, prevailing over falsehood. Taylor Morgan rises, regal and composed. She inhales deeply, a gentle smile unfurling on her lips like the first rays of dawn. Reporters rush forward, microphones thrust toward her, cameras pivot in her direction. Taylor beams, her voice ringing clear in a triumphant declaration. "This victory isn't mine alone. It belongs to everyone who has ever been bound by prejudice and injustice." Prosecutors exchange uneasy glances as Judge Hawthorne formally notes a recommendation for further investigation into Officer Mitchell's conduct. The weight of public scrutiny now presses down on him like a boulder, foreshadowing the consequences of his deceit and abuse of power. Taylor moves back down the aisle, her gaze sweeping the courtroom from the elderly spectators, nodding in approval to the law students watching intently. Her silhouette stretches across the cool marble floor, bathed in the glow of a stunning sunset pouring through high windows. As the iron doors close behind her, she strides toward the exit with unwavering confidence, ready to begin the next chapter of her life. Though this chapter of justice has drawn to a close, Taylor Morgan's story is only beginning to reverberate beyond these walls in every heart that yearns for fairness, in every look that seeks true equality. As daylight fades into star-studded night, the light of her courage and hope continues to shine. A year has passed since Monica Jackson upended that trial with her calm resolve and unshakable truth. Today, she's a sought-after keynote speaker at social justice and diversity conferences nationwide. On the stage of the Academy of Justice Summit, spotlight gleaming off her warm navy blazer, Monica recounts her journey from the little black girl barred from boutiques to the determined SEAL lieutenant commander who stood tall in court. Thunderous applause greets every milestone she shares, a testament to the power of courage and integrity. Inside the police department, Internal Affairs widened its probe into Officer Simmons's misconduct. He was dismissed from the force and now faces formal charges for evidence tampering and abuse of authority. The city's police chief has overhauled body camera policies and launched anti-bias training, mandating officers to report any technical glitches immediately and ensuring accountability at every level. Back in Meadowvale, the corner of Magnolia and 5th carries a new plaque. Justice served here, honoring the site of Monica's stand for human dignity. The Monica Jackson Courage Scholarship now supports outstanding students of color facing financial hardship, fueling the next generation's pursuit of justice and equality. On Saturday mornings, Monica volunteers with Echoes of Hope, teaching self-defense and confidence to local women. She reminds them, stand firm in your dignity, even when power tries to silence the truth. Their laughter and determination echo the courtroom's triumphant energy, a living continuation of her fight. As the sun sets over Meadowvale, golden light spills into Monica's office, illuminating photographs of scholarship recipients beaming beside her. 1 year on, her story hasn't simply ended with a verdict, it's ignited a flame of hope in countless hearts still yearning for justice.